This will probably be the most boring weather video you will watch in your entire life. Okay, that's kind of a joke, because we do have some stuff to talk about in today's video. We have one of them being a severe threat today across parts of the Ohio Valley and across parts of the Mid-South. In fact, earlier before recording, we did have a tornado warning southwest of Indianapolis to not produce a tornado, but there are some areas where we do see some rotation just east of this upper low sitting in Illinois. In fact, look at this presentation. I mean, this is honestly kind of incredible for August. Not incredibly unusual or unprecedented, but still kind of impressive to see in August. We would see sort of mid-latitude cyclones, these upper lows, more frequently in the winter and spring, and even into parts of the fall. But to see this in late summer is actually kind of impressive. In fact, hey, today is August 1st. The last day, I wish, man, goodness gracious, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm getting excited. The last full month of summer. Meteorological fall begins on September 1st, so I'm looking forward to it. But before we get there, we have to talk about some things that are going on for the next few days. And of course, we'll talk about what we could expect for at least the first couple weeks of August. Let's go ahead and take a look at the severe outlook for today. We do have a slight risk of severe storms across parts of the Ohio Valley, across parts of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and down into parts of Alabama and Georgia, almost down to the Birmingham area, and almost up to the Indianapolis and Columbus areas. So that includes cities like Louisville, Cincinnati, Lexington, Chattanooga, and Huntsville, even parts of the Knoxville metro. This is mainly driven by damaging winds, but there could be some large hail, a couple of tornadoes as well within this risk area, but mainly just a gusty wind threat today and into tonight. We'll take a look at the future radar, show you guys, give you guys an idea of what we are expecting this afternoon and this evening. The radar will not look exactly like this, but it will give you an idea of what we could be looking at. So going over the next few hours, we do see some scattered storms that could actually be fairly widespread. The stronger storms within this band are going to be mostly capable of producing damaging winds, but where shear is stronger, where the storms are stronger, there could be a spin-up tornado or two within this whole line, even from parts of Alabama into parts of Georgia, going up all the way into parts of Indiana and Ohio this evening. So keep a lookout for that. Not a major threat at all. Just going to be watching for some damaging winds, a couple of tornadoes. It could be some flooding in spots where storms train or are slower moving. Could be a few storms that could produce some flooding, so keep an eye out on that. But the severe threat will wane late tonight and into the overnight hours. It could be a few instances of damaging winds going into early tomorrow morning, but I think for the most part the threat should die out a few hours after sunset. So not anything to really worry about too much as far as a major threat for today. If we go into tomorrow, we do have a marginal risk of severe storms tomorrow. We'll take a look at that. A marginal risk across parts of Georgia, much of the eastern states going up to into Lake Erie. Maybe going to be a wind threat. We also have a marginal risk out here across parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. Let's go and take a look at the forecast radar for tomorrow. Kind of the same deal, mostly going to be a damaging wind threat tomorrow, a lot of scattered storms. I don't think we're going to see much of a tornado threat, but if you're across parts of the Appalachians, from Georgia all the way up to the eastern Great Lakes, just keep in mind the potential for some strong severe wind gusts. Could see some isolated hail, maybe a tornado or two, but I think the tornado threat tomorrow is fairly low. Kind of like today, although I think today has a little bit higher tornado threat than tomorrow does overall. And on day 3, we do have a slight risk out here across parts of the northern plains, North Dakota, Minnesota, and South Dakota. All hazards are possible on Monday. You also have a marginal risk, just kind of a remnant of the upper low activity going into Monday. Mostly a wind threat here across parts of the northeast. We'll take a look at the future radar. We'll use the NAM. I know the NAM has its issues, but it is the model that we have in range for Monday. Could see kind of an all modes, all hazards threat where we do see either a line of storms or a broken line of storm that may produce some damaging winds and large hail. There could be some tornado threat in some areas, but I do think it's mostly going to be a wind and hail threat. Mostly going to be anchored towards Monday afternoon and Monday evening. Now I think that severe threat does die off a little bit after sunset as that cold front moves through. So that's going to do it for the short term. Let's go and talk a little bit about the long term. Alright, so here we go with the longer range stuff. We'll take a look at the upper air charts first. Today we do have that upper low sitting across parts of the Midwest today. This is going to be responsible for bringing in some cooler temperatures and some unsettled weather to parts of the Midwest and East Coast today. We talked about that just a moment ago. That system will move off towards the east today, tomorrow, and into Monday. You can see it just kind of slowly decay as we go throughout tomorrow and into Monday. We have another trough bringing in some cooler temperatures across parts of the Northwest, parts of Western Canada as well, but also today and in tomorrow, it is bringing some very dangerous fire conditions across parts of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho today due to some strong winds, still some warmer temperatures, and those very dry soils that any fires that do ignite are going to spread very rapidly. So very dangerous fire weather conditions out there today. So please, if you are across parts of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, California, please avoid burning at all costs. Avoid starting a fire at any cost. It is a very dangerous environment out there today. Please avoid burning. That's the best way that you can help prevent major wildfires from starting by human activities. So just please think about that today and into tomorrow. Monday we do have this trough that's bringing the gusty winds and cooler temperatures to parts of the Northwest and Western Canada. That will bring some severe weather across parts of the northern plains on Monday, which we just talked about earlier. That trough will slide across parts of southern Canada over the course of this week, bringing some cooler temps and even some more unsettled weather across parts of northern plains, Great Lakes, and even to northeast. And it still brings some cooler air, a mixed bag of cooler and warmer air depending on the day across parts of the eastern states. But very typical summertime pattern here. Sets back up across the west, deep ridge across the Four Corners, typical heat dome there across the west, brings some more above average temperatures across the western states, even spilling into central U.S. So very warm. Another heat wave likely for later this week, or sorry, I guess later next week if you're watching this on Saturday, later next week and into next weekend. So that would be the week of August 2nd into the 9th as well. And that could probably persist even into mid-August as well. Maybe some relief coming in around mid-August, but then that heat does move off towards the east where parts of the eastern states warm back up again into mid-August. We take a look at the GEFS, somewhat of a similar story, but a little more of that back and forth pattern across parts of eastern states. Some areas, some days above average, some areas below average, some days below average. Just a mixed bag. Nothing really notable, just sort of the unsettled pattern continuing across the eastern states. Very warm and very dry across the western states. Well, I should take a look at the precip totals over the next 10 days. You can see where the weather is unsettled across parts of the eastern states from the Midwest to the East Coast. Very dry across parts of the southern plains, very dry across the west, with the exception of that monsoonal moisture working in across parts of Arizona and New Mexico. Some moisture there across parts of the Pacific Northwest, but many areas across the west and southern U.S., west and central U.S., mostly dry. So we do expect drought conditions to worsen across many areas across parts of the west and into the southern plains. So not a good pattern for the next 10 days, but I don't expect the pattern to really change much as we go into, if we take a look at the European weeklies, we'll take a look at the 7-day anomalies. Maybe we see some relief towards the end of August, but I think many areas are going to remain mostly dry. I don't expect any major long-term relief for those drought conditions, and even the heat from many areas throughout this period, even going into September. I tried to combine September and temperatures, and that didn't go very well. But I do think it's going to remain quite warm for parts of the U.S., much of the U.S., maybe going into September. Maybe not as above average as it's showing here. Again, we're sort of looking at a 7-day period in the long range, so expect this to change. Expect there's to be some deviations and some variability compared to this output. I do think things change a little bit between now and then, and may not look exactly like this, but I do think that parts of the west and central U.S., west and Mississippi, are going to remain above average throughout the remainder of August, with maybe some breaks in between and into early September. I think the eastern U.S. will remain in this unsettled pattern throughout much of early to mid-August, maybe even a late August. Temperatures near to maybe a little below average. Some days could be a little above average. So as far as anything notable, as far as any major storms coming in, the only thing I can really think of would be severe weather. We'll take a look at the deterministic European throughout the next 10 days here. We'll go out to hour 240. Just kind of see what we're looking at. Throughout this week, I think we could see a couple rounds of some stronger storms throughout parts of this week, maybe mid this week if this shortwave here produces some severe weather. That could be mainly in the form of an MCS type event. We have those clusters of storms moving through the northern plains and Midwest, very typical for mid to late summer. But as far as anything notable, it's really hard to say. We don't have any major tropical activity. No winter activity. We're still in summer, so we're not forecasting snow in August, but really there's nothing on the radar, nothing in the models that really screams very notable outside of the heat, continued fire conditions, unsettled pattern across the eastern states, just sort of wet, rainy, and maybe a little bit cooler as well. So maybe or not, I wasn't joking about this video being the most boring video you ever watched. You're not watching this video to learn about a hurricane coming, or about a winter storm, or about a major outbreak coming. Just typical late summer pattern. Not too unusual for late summer, but we're making a video to make a video. So we need to get back in a rhythm, and this is one way to do it, even on the boring days where there's just not much to talk about. So with that being said, that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, because we will have more content when the weather is actually much more active, and especially throughout winter. So stay tuned, because we do have some discussions about winter coming up over the next few weeks and months. So you're not going to want to miss those. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.